Next, let's look at three service models. So by now we have seen what is cloud computing. We have understood the definition of it. We have seen the benefits of cloud computing. Then we have also seen 5 characteristics of a cloud computing, which means any of the cloud provider which comes up and say I am a cloud provider, then you will see those 5 characteristics. But now we are trying to deep down into when a cloud provider will say I have a cloud services, how they basically categorize their service, right? This is basically called as service models. Means what is the category that they basically give to a cloud consumer. So basically there are 3 categories or 3 service models. First one is infrastructure as a service. Second is platform as a service. Third is a software as a service. So this cloud consumers are offering services, right? Because we don't want to own them, we want somebody else to own it so that we can use their service. As we both are friends and you want to use my PC as a service and then you pay me because you are using my PC, in that example, in the same context they come up with these 3 different services. So the representation of infrastructure as a service is I caps, 2 A's, that is small case, and then S caps. That's basically the shorthand notation for infrastructure as a service. Platform as a service, you see P caps and S caps, and similarly for software as a service. So we're going to understand each of them, what they actually means. This is how the whole services of a cloud computing is being categorized by a cloud provider. I hope you're understanding the terminology. The reason I'm stressing to use those because if you understand them, it's easy to talk via that language. So let's go deeper into each of this category. But just to give you an feel of what this actually means, infrastructure, we know infrastructure as in physical servers. Platform, which means pre-installed softwares, like Java or OS, or basically you have pre-installed layer of Node.js that you can start writing your program. Like in terms of SAP, it could be pre-installed of HANA. That could be a platform as service. Is a platform for you to write programs. Infrastructure is basically it's a server available, you can start deploying your own softwares. Software as a service is basically a software already available, you can start using the software. You don't have to develop it, you are basically a user of using that software. So software is pre-configured for a purpose, like Dropbox is a good example of a software. So we're going to look into all those things, but I'm just giving you a very high level picture so that you understand when somebody says infrastructure as a service is basically talking about physical things like RAM, CPU and all those things. Like infrastructure, platform, when they say platform, in the sense you have your physical servers, somebody have installed some platform on it. Could be a Linux, could be a Windows, could be a Java platform, could be an HANA platform already installed. You can start developing the applications on top of it. Software is they have this infrastructure ready, they have this platform ready, they also have developed some software. You can start using the software as well. So that's basically the 3 service models. I'm gonna give one definition each for each of the service models, then we'll move on to the next chapter. So let's look at infrastructure as a service. So I'm showing you the shorthand notation IaaS. The IaaS stands for infrastructure as a service, so that's how I'm going to notate, because this is what you're going to see when you log in into any of the cloud provider software like Microsoft Azure or Amazon. So in a basic level, infrastructure generally means servers. When you say servers, is typically VMs. Then it is a networking, the LAN, firewall, load balancer, all those networking, virtual addresses, IP addresses, DNS, everything comes under networking. Then the storage, basically your hard disk and all those things will come under storage. So all the physical layer, physical layer of having a networking, storage, and basically your CPU, RAM to have this computer ready or basic infrastructure ready is basically a service. Is a service that basically of one of the service model that a cloud provider will offer you. So if you want to just have this service as an infrastructure layer for your application, then you can get this service from the cloud provider. So just give you some high level overview of it. The cloud service providers like Amazon, Microsoft, IBM, Google offer their infrastructure service for pay-per-use. So what is pay-per-use? So as I told you in the previous characteristic, one of the characteristic was measured service. Whatever the services that you use, they will track it, they will meter it, and end of the month or maybe a quarter, they will offer you a bill with whatever services that you basically use on their cloud. Then we can obviously rent the computing, networking, storage from any data location of the cloud service provider. So when you log in into Microsoft site, they'll tell you what data centers they have across the globe. Even Amazon does that, even IBM and Google does that. So you can, when you just want to rent an infrastructure, then you can look at what computing or networking and storage do you need from which data center and how many do you need. Just give you a very simple definition. So when you get infrastructure as a service, that is basically provided to you, right, by any of the cloud provider. All the maintenance and upgrade of the IT infrastructure is handled by the cloud provider. So you don't have to worry about, oh, my RAM is basically end of life. The VM that I'm running has a RAM which is end of life. You don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about whether the RPM of the hard disk is good enough or it's dusty, so it's not really running fast. All these infrastructure related things, you don't have to really worry about it, because once you take the service of infrastructure from any of the cloud provider, now it becomes their responsibility to make sure that all the infrastructure are basically of some particular standard. Okay, because they do write certification on their cloud services that they provide, so they definitely maintain some kind of standard on their how they maintain their infrastructure, where they have proper cooling in their hardwares, and the cabling is done properly, the internet is properly linked up, all those power is available, a backup is available, battery backup is also available. So all this is being taken care when you go for an infrastructure as a service. So it's other way, you're saying we don't want to maintain any of the infrastructure related activities, so we outsource them to a cloud provider. So that's one of the first layer of the service model. Well, next, so at the platform as a service, we get the operating system, we get some runtimes. If you want to write Java application, maybe you want to write a web application using Tomcat, maybe you want to write a mobile apps, IoT, whatever platforms that you actually require to start writing your program. Even maybe you need a database already pre-installed, you just want to go and start using by creating some tables on it. So it's another layer of service model that a cloud provider will offer us, which is called as platform as a service. So platform as a service is a capability provided with required platform to develop, test and deploy the application. So they're not going to write program for us, but they're going to provide an infrastructure for sure as a part of the VM, and then they will also install some of the operating system on it, the Java platform, whatever that is required to develop, test and deploy our own applications. Platform as a service could be operating system, programming environments and database access. So think from this direction. Infrastructure is basically your physical servers. Okay, in terms that's a VM, but think from they are like a physical servers. Okay, networking and your physical CPU and RAM. Platform is basically once you have the server ready, you start installing the software. The first software typically you install is the operating system. So if you just have an infrastructure as a service, then you have to install your own OS. If you get a platform as a service, it's already pre-installed for you. So you don't have to worry about upgrading, putting the patches, make sure the software is up to date, make sure, when it crashes, you have the software backup already pre-configured so that it comes up with the same state that has been lost. So all this is being taken care in the background when you go with platform as a service. So whatever platform you agree to have, they'll make sure that it is on the latest version or whatever version you prefer, and then it makes sure that it's basically have a proper backup so that when it goes down, it comes up to that particular state. The third one is software as a service. It's very easy to understand. It's a pre-developed software, right? You don't have to develop it. It's developed, they will sell it as a service software, then you can just start using it. The popular example could be Microsoft Office 365. It's a cloud-based offering. You pay as an yearly subscription, you pay like 150 USD per year, and then you get to enjoy all the Microsoft Office tools. Dropbox, another good example. You pay $9 per month and you can start using the software by dropping the files. You don't have to worry from where the software is coming, from where the operating system has been installed on the background, and where the infrastructure is being maintained. You just have to pay for the $9 per month subscription for the Dropbox, and everything has been handled by Dropbox themselves. So similar to Salesforce and Concur. Okay, so these are the three service model: infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. So whenever you log in into any of the famous cloud provider, they will categorize their product in these three different service models, so that for you to pick and choose which options that you want in one of the categories. So there's an arrow pointing down to show it's a top-down approach. It's basically when you buy a software as a service, you defaultly get the platform as a service and infrastructure as a service. So when you pay $9 to Dropbox, maybe the $2 is going to infrastructure and $2 is going to platform, and maybe the rest of the money is going to but you don't have control, right? It's when you have access to a software layer, you only can see that software. You don't have any control to the platform as a service and infrastructure service, even though it's available in the cloud, but you are not the owner of it and you don't have access to it. Similarly, when you're platform as a service, there will not be any software pre-installed for you. You have to develop your own softwares, but whatever platform that you agree to have it, they will just provide its platform to you, and then they will maintain that platform. And then in the infrastructure level, they will maintain the infrastructure for you. So for your exercise for today, you just go ahead and log in into Amazon and try to figure out how they have been categorized the infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service.